school district. I didn't know.
Right. Yep.
Thank you for everyone's patience. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, September 12th meeting of the Sierra Madre City Council. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Mayor Edward Garcia,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Kelly Krebs. Here. Councilmember Jean Goss,
Here.
Councilmember Christine Lowe,
Present.
and Councilmember Robert Parkhurst.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, we are all accounted for.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. If you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So yesterday was obviously the 22nd anniversary of September 11th. And I'd just like to thank our fire department and our police department for hosting us. The whole council was actually present at the remembrance and memorial that was put together in front of the firehouse. Yeah, my wife and I were talking about, we don't really talk about the day that lives in infamy or December 7th that much, but we talk about September 11th because it's fresh in our minds. And we promise to never forget. As we go forward, I hope that we remember these events. The second time the United States was attacked on our soil, this time on the mainland. And but I do recall some inspiration from these events. Horrible, horrible events that nearly 3,000 people died for or from, and then we had countless other service members dying in the acts of war that followed that. But I do recall, for a short time, we were galvanized as a nation. We all came together. We had differences leading up to that. We still had differences, but we came together as one nation, indivisible, as we say in the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And we're better for that. So as we go forward, let's continue. I know we'll continue to have our differences because having differences actually makes us better as we discuss and get through these differences. But let's remember that we are one nation, one city of Sierra Madre, and hopefully as we go together with our differences, we will support one another as a people and as a citizenship. Thank you. Okay. We have an agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda today? Or do we have a motion to approve it as presented?
Move to support the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you. We were a little late because we had a closed session. If we could have our city attorney please report out from the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9 regarding anticipated litigation. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a motion, if we can have a motion for the approval of reading of resolutions and ordinances by title only.
So moved.
Is there Councilmember Goss with a second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we had two sets of minutes to look at. The first one being the July 11th, 2023 minutes. Were there any substantive changes we'd like to make here from the dais, or were there any emails for the July 11th minutes?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Parker submitted suggestions via email for alternative language that does not call for substantive changes.
Okay, so now I can't say it. Substantive changes, okay. Any other changes as we sit here today?
No.
No. Is there a motion to approve as amended by?
Motion to approve the minutes as amended. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second set of minutes was from our last meeting, August 20.
Actually, if I can,
Please.
so I need to abstain from the 11th since I wasn't present, I think.
I don't know, you don't need it, you actually don't need to abstain,
Oh,
but,
All right,
um,
thank you for correction.
Sure.
No worries.
now we have the August 22nd, meeting. Did we have any changes suggested for those minutes?
I submitted some changes that mainly to my inspiration. Nothing huge.
Thank
So.
you. Thank you. Were those forwarded to you, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we received the suggested changes, and we've implemented those.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve as amended?
Approve the August 22nd minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on to mayor and city council reports. Who would like to start? Please.
Okay, well, a couple of things. On August 23rd, our transportation subcommittee met again, and more or less we kind of focused on potential routes that our city system might consider if we modify it, possibly getting service down to the Arcadia Gold Line station, and also possibly connecting to the Arcadia transit system. We also reviewed potential routes and discussed other potential connections, including links to Pasadena's transit system. No action was taken. We're still in the middle of a significant amount of information gathering. Our next meeting will be next week on Wednesday the 20th, so I'll know more next time we meet. Yesterday I was at the event with everyone else for the fire department and police department put on for the 9/11. I just wanted to thank our police chief and our fire chief for putting on that event. It was obviously very moving and poignant and certainly appropriate. And this morning I attended the Foothill Employment and Training Consortium Policy Board, if you can say that 3 times real fast, in Pasadena. There was a presentation outlining the one-stop operator services of the Foothill Workforce Development Board. No action was taken on that. Also, the members of the board were introduced to youth who are presently in the program, and we heard firsthand how the training from the Foothill Workforce Development Board has really made a difference in their lives. It was very touching, and it was great for me as a board member to hear. Finally, we did, as a board, vote to renew the membership of 5 current members of the Foothill Workforce Development Board who had termed out and wanted to be reappointed. That's my report, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Goss. Councilmember Lowe?
Just that the Planning Commission has been looking at approving a few projects down on Lima and South Lima, and with some input from neighbors on adding second stories. And Stonegate, 1 Carter continues to have active planning approval, looking at a lot of the new homes that are going to be up there.
Thank you. Councilmember Parkhurst?
Yes, so like the rest of the committee, I was at the 9/11 remembrance, and it was well done. And I really appreciate all of not only the police and fire for everything that they've done, but all of the community that showed up. We had a really strong showing from the Rotary there, so thank you for all the Rotarians for showing up to that. And then also was encouraged, and I think that the chief said this, the fire chief said it, is that we had some youth show up as well. And I think it's, as the mayor said, as successive generations come along, we tend to forget about it. If you weren't born more than 22 years ago, you wouldn't know about this event. But I think it's important to continue that on and let people remember that and remember what the impact was. Clean Power Alliance update. We had an Energy Committee meeting back in August. Nothing huge coming out of it. It's going to be a busy fall, though, with lots of contracts to be negotiated to give us energy going forward. So that's going to be positive. As I reported at the last meeting, we had more proposals than we've ever had before. So that's a positive thing, that we're going to have a good pipeline for renewable energy and keeping costs low. There was an overall board meeting on September 7th. And one of the things that the board voted on was a retention program for Clean Power Alliance employees. So trying to keep employees at CPA and encourage them. It's a very technical organization, and it was really important to be able to retain those people, because they're the ones that are doing the negotiations and the program development and all of that support us in our community. Also there, I got pulled aside by LA County Supervisor Horwath, who is also on the board, and she asked if Sierra Madre was interested in participating in the SCOLAS USA program. It's something that the Pope has put together and wants to launch in LA in the lead up to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. I'll forward the information to council for consideration, but I think it'd be something for us to consider, and I will add it at the end of the meeting as an item there. As Councilmember Goss said, I was also at the Transportation Committee on the 23rd, and I don't have anything to add there. He did a fantastic job giving a summary of that. Following right behind that was the opening of the Cancer Center just down the street. It was an absolutely delightful evening. They've done a phenomenal job with that facility there. We're really lucky to have it there, an incredible resource for anyone who is suffering for cancer and or a cancer survivor. And I took personal, it was important to me. I was able to welcome them and to say a few words, and it was important to me because I am a cancer survivor. So I thought it was a really nice evening. There was a chamber mixer following day on August 28th, and that was also really nice. And we've got a number of businesses that are showing up for us, so a lot of support in the community for that. And then the last thing was that last week was a senior commission meeting, and unfortunately that conflicts with the Clean Power Alliance Board Directors meeting, but I had a good opportunity to catch up with Chair Kroc and get an update on it, and some exciting things coming out of the senior commission. The Hart Park House Kitchen is looking to reopen their lunch program, so they're hoping to begin that again, so that's exciting. And they have a number of events coming up. I don't know if these are on your list, but I may steal some of your thunder, apologies. They've got a fall senior craft program for designing pumpkins for Tuesday, September 19th. Rock and roll bingo for Thursday, September 21st from 12:30 to 2:30. And for all the seniors out there, that activity is so popular, they have to extend it, and please register because it'll fill up. And then there's another senior bus excursion for Friday, November 17th. I don't know where that one's going towards. The registration will open on September 25th for that. So we'll have some time to plug it out at our future meeting. And then finally, the senior holiday lunch has been set for Wednesday, December 13th at the Hart Park House from 12 to 2. That is my report.
Pretty full dance card there, Councilmember Parkhurst. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure. So I missed the last meeting, so there will be a little bit of overlap. As mentioned, we all attended the 9/11 Remembrance ceremony, and before the last meeting, we had our National Night Out, and I sort of juxtaposed the remembrance yesterday, sort of looking back and honoring those who have sacrificed, and then National Night Out sort of being much more forward-looking and creating the kind of relationships with our public service departments, with our community. And so I like to think of those in tandem, because while we definitely don't want to lose sight of the remembrance aspect, I also think probably for our community equally, or maybe even more important, that we continue to forge relationships and strengthen relationships with our police and fire departments. So Also in the interim, I actually represented the city at Judy Chu's Congressional Award Ceremony, where our own Playhouse received an award as a nonprofit of the year. I know David was here at the last meeting, David Gordon was here at the last meeting and mentioned that, and that was a really nice ceremony. A lot of really nice things said about our Playhouse, and also just many other organizations and individuals who got awards. It was a very inspirational lunch, and Councilmember Chu, as always, was very active and very involved in the local community, which is much appreciated. I also went to the League of Cities LA County division, the part of the division that we're in, their new officer installation, and the new president is very fired up about reclaiming local control and limiting the state sort of overseer aspect of many of our, primarily I think in zoning and housing policy. So it'll be interesting to see how she puts that into action. She is the longest serving LA district attorney, so I feel like she has some firepower at her back, not in her office, but she obviously is someone who has a lot of experience in public service, and it'll be interesting to see how she translates her passion for this into action. I also attended the Natural Resource Commission meeting last week or the week before. One of the items on their agenda I think overlapped a little bit with the noise ordinance discussion at the last meeting. They were considering gas-powered leaf blowers in the context of pollution, obviously in the environmental context, and we're actively discussing that and extended that discussion to another subsequent meeting to discuss whether or not they wanted to propose or recommend a ban of some sort, similar to some of our neighboring communities. They also scheduled for their next meeting, or a upcoming meeting, an update on our bear situation. So I mean, to the extent that folks are interested in hearing kind of a comprehensive review of the actions the city has taken, the next Natural Resource Committee meeting I think will have a good overview of all of the activity that's going on in the city and all of the responses and things that the city itself is doing to try to combat the problem. Lastly, the mayor and I last week attended a reception at City Hall in Los Angeles. Mayor Bass invited us to a reception for Tom Perez, who's a current White House advisor and former labor secretary, and one of his duties at the White House is an interagency role, and he really emphasized the need for interagency cooperation and coordination on lots of issues. The one that he was focused on and the one that Mayor Bass is focused on is homelessness, but it also sort of reminded me that in terms of our situation here with our wildlife concerns, it's a similar message. We need coordination at all levels, state, county, federal, and those were the kinds of things he was talking about, bringing resources together and bringing people together. So that's what I did.
Thank you, and welcome back.
Thank you.
So the Library Board of Trustees did have a meeting, and I was trying to rifle through my calendar on my phone. I have my computer in the bag, so I don't have all the dates, but we did meet with the Board of Trustees and the local organizations that help support the library as well, such as the Friends of the Library, the Historical Society, and also the foundation. Obviously, the top of the agenda is talking about our meaningful update of the library. So we're continuing on that. I informed the trustees that I have a standing agenda item to have an update on the library and the process and the progress on what's been going on. So as citizens, you should look forward to the standing agenda item to hear on what's going on with the library. And there was also a discussion of a recap of the architect TSK and the meeting that went on at the library a couple weeks prior to that, and it's my understanding that was a very good meeting. A lot of questions were answered, and we will continue to have, even though we have a short timeline, a lot of transparency around this building. Also, I did also attend the Cancer Support Center here in Sierra Madre's opening party. It was great to see such a community. I believe they're right at home here in Sierra Madre because it's a very community-based type of organization. They support one another as we do as residents here. I had to leave early, and I was very grateful for Councilmember Parkhurst to recognize them on my behalf, so thank you for that. As mentioned, I did attend the meeting with Tom Perez at City Hall in downtown LA as an invitation from Mayor Bass. Thank you for joining me on that. Tom Perez was great. He took time. He came directly to Mayor Pro Tem and I, and we spoke for about 15 minutes about life first and who we are and what he does and what he's, his family life, and got to know him a little bit. And then as an economist, he was the Secretary of Labor, so I was pretty excited to talk about unemployment and inflation and those types of issues. So it was a great event. We had I guess there was a majority of the county supervisors there. There were at least two, three of them. So we also had quite a few of the LA City Council members and also some other members, city council members and mayors from the LA area. And I've said this before, and Mayor Bass is on the same page that we're stronger together. We're such a small city. We don't have the biggest voice, but we are part of a greater community of Los Angeles. And if we strike alliances with our other elected officials in other cities, we have more power. We've talked about the bear issue. If you hadn't seen last meeting, I encourage you to watch my mayor's address. I spent about 5 to 10 minutes talking about bears and what we've done so far. We've blocking out of Flint Ridge, who was not at this event, but they did adopt a similar resolution as to our resolution. And Mayor Bass continues to be interested to hear what we have here in Sierra Madre. We don't have the unhoused issue like they have in Los Angeles, but she says your issues are my issues, and I want to make sure that we're paying attention to what's going on in all of the cities within Los Angeles County. Even though she's just the mayor of one of many cities, she has a lot of power, and she likes to encourages people to remember that the Southland is one of the largest economies in the whole world. So we should have a say when it comes to Sacramento and Washington. So that was very encouraging. So going forward, we have and I hope Librarian Regan will come up and speak to this during public comment, but we will have our Department of Fish and Wildlife meeting with the library. I believe it's on Saturday, but I'll let you come up and do that during public comment. And that's all I have for my report. Thank you. Do I have any announcements? They're buried somewhere here. Forgive me. I don't see them. Here they are. So we have a few announcements. We'd like you to, here we go. Please join the Sierra Madre Library on Saturday, September 16th from noon to 2 for a presentation from the Department of Fish and Wildlife on living with wildlife. Another announcement, we are going to have bear-resistant trash containers that will be delivered to every residential account starting on October 30th. And just a few comments on that. I know Mayor Pro Tem's kind of been a keyboard warrior on social media regarding this, but thankfully to our subcommittee, Councilmember Parkhurst and Mayor Pro Tem Krebs, we were able to negotiate bear-resistant trash cans without an increased fee for these. The increase in fee is for what's going to be going on regarding the organics program. So we have to recycle in a different way, and that's going to be all given. We'll get the information from Athens regarding that. That's going to be a larger cost, but within that, within our contract, we're basically able to negotiate bear-proof cans for those organics, which are going to be an attractant, pretty much free of charge for all of our residents. So I want you to know that those are coming as far as some education on how to recycle our organics. And also, the community magazine with our upcoming community fall events is scheduled for delivery next week. So I have previewed this, and this is great. So you'll see what's going on within the community. With that, let's take it to public comment for items not on the agenda. We do have a public participation code of conduct. I'll paraphrase. It's long. It's on the back of the yellow cards. But we basically ask you to refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive comments. The mayor or the designee might ask you to leave chambers if you continue and you've been warned. So that's basically it. But we do encourage public participation. So if you have not already, please fill out a yellow card in the back, bring it to our city clerk, Laura Aguilar. And this is for items not on the agenda. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and when you approach the lectern, please state your name and residence. Madam City Clerk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first speaker this evening is Gus Bissarat.
How you doing, guys?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm very happy to hear all the good stories. I am here because of the bear. Okay? This guy knows me by heart now. I don't know his name, but he knows mine and my address. I am no longer able to enjoy my backyard. I cannot barbecue anymore. I cannot play with my grandkids. I cannot go to the shed. And there is no way I can communicate with the bear. All right? I mean, he cannot tell me his name, or he's going to eat me or hurt me. Now, I was in touch with a lady by the name Zelensky. Yes, Rich, the last name, at the Fish and Wild office, I guess in somewhere, 805 area code. I spoke with her for over at least 15 minutes. She keep repeating the same thing I heard from another lady from the same department 6 months ago, that bears are protected. So coming from political science background, I ask a simple question. Where did you read in our Constitution that animal right is more important than human right? She didn't. She told me you're the first one to ask me this question. She didn't know how to answer. My point, the second point I mentioned to her, okay, we can tranquilize the animal. I am for it. I subscribe to the nature. And why don't you just take it and see if other, zoos need one. You can take him as far as Montana. I was in Montana. By the time he gets back here, I'll be dead and buried. She said, no, we have to put him back to the mountains next to us. Okay, that makes sense now why he's coming back. He's attracted to our food or whatever. So I plead with you to find a way for at least to save his life by taking him to another zoos, to other states, or to the far end of California, that's 600 miles away from here, and let him get loose, if that's how much they love those animals. But I am a citizen, I am a human being, and I have more right than the fish and whatever, whoever write all these rules. They never been in my backyard. So they're safe and sound in their offices, but they are not really in the public to see that those bears are becoming danger. And I can no longer play with my grandkid. I mean, this is really travesty. So I urge you, as a representative of my city, to do something about it. And I rest my case. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Peggy Dallas.
Hi, I'm Peggy Dallas. I live at 312 East Grandview Avenue, right next to Gus. I'm here to talk about what the city is doing regarding the bear situation and make a few suggestions. I personally had 2 bear attempted break-ins within this past month. The bear bent and ripped the screens, broke glass, and me or my daughter were standing just within a few feet of this bear. So it's disturbing. Let's see. So I'm trying to understand the whole bear thing that's happening in Sierra Madre. And I didn't know there was a Natural Resources Committee, for instance. And I didn't know there was going to be a presentation at the library. I'm not on social media. But I do, when I have an issue that I think the town should be involved in, I check the website. And so I do understand a few things. I appreciate the city council passing a public safety, declaration about bear problem last April. And I understand that the city doesn't have any jurisdiction over the bears. It's the state, and the state has a Fish and Game Commission, which sets policy for the fish and game agents. And there's only like 2 agents for like 5 counties here in Southern California. So needless to say, I was very impressed that the first time the bear did an attempted break-in, the agent was there the next morning or early afternoon. And she, took DNA samples and everything. The next time, she didn't show up. And so I have this question about reporting. What's getting reported and what's not? Both times the police came out. And so I'm confused about that situation. What I'm recommending the city do is set up a bear portal on the homepage of the website, since, as Mayor Garcia pointed out at the last meeting, it's a big issue, getting suddenly much more urgent here in town. So on this portal, I'd like to see an explanation of the city's plan, what they've done, what they're doing, who in the city is addressing this, what their limits of responsibility are, and then also a link to the wildlife incident report form, which I just discovered today to report the second incident at my house, because I figured it hadn't been reported. And it would be nice if the site had an ongoing tally of incidents in town. The third thing would be a link to the state's black bear management policy, which is very readable. And the fourth thing would be a link to the Fish and Game Commission's meeting schedule, which is on the homepage of their website. And so all that would make the whole thing in one spot, which any concerned resident, and there's more of us every day, can, access. Time's up. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Dallas. Management Allen Carlson, do we have that slide, if you have it handy, with the website? Or we have a new email address where you can make comments. There we go. There we go. I just want to bring it to the public's attention. wildlife@cityofsierramadre.com. That's no substitute for 911, obviously.
Where is that on the website?
It's not.
This email address? What's that?
It's not so much.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's on the website. But this was management. I know we're in public comment, but yeah.
Yeah, there is a section on our website that has just about all of the information that you were looking for. It's not on the front page, and we don't have a portal. So those recommendations should be something to be considered.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something, please?
No, I'm sorry. This is public comment. Yeah. I went a little off script there myself, so you can blame me. Okay. City Clerk Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker is Philip Yao.
Hello, Mr. Yao.
Philip Yao. Hi, how you doing? It's been a while. I live on 513 Sierra Keys Drive, just up by the monastery. But since I heard a few things, I think I wanted to talk about the water leak situation around my neighborhood. Okay, but I'm going to go and diverge a little, go a little bit off script. And thanks for putting the good word on the 9/11. I guess just for 9/11. Anyway, but I wanted to add that we shouldn't forget that we should every day thank the first responders, including members who are active or retired from our military. They keep us safe. Certainly, that's how I feel. Okay. I was fortunate to be able to visit Ground Zero, and also when the memorial was put up. It's very, very moving. For anyone who has not kind of felt the impact of 9/11, go there. You will feel that. it'll send you, you know, it's just gonna infiltrate you completely, okay? All right, I'm gonna move along early. As far as bear is concerned, is there a bear trap, you know, and relocation program? Could something be done to help these folks out? I used to have bears up in my neighborhood. Somehow we sent it over to your neighborhood. So, but if there is, yeah, I know, but I didn't know that either. But if there is a program, you know, maybe the state could relocate prior to anything, you know, bad could happen, okay? All right, so back to the water leak. I'm at 513 Sierra Keys Drive, and the neighboring street right down below us is Key Vista. Believe it or not, we've had 20 plus leaks. If you drive through the neighborhood, it's a shame, okay? I don't understand how we could repair 20 times, and some repairs actually have gone on more than once. I've witnessed on many occasions when it's repaired, the next 2 days, it becomes a sinkhole. So there's more work. Now, I don't know what the cost for repairing 20 such, you know, leaks are, as opposed to really seriously buckling down and finding the resources to pay for a permanent repair, okay? A repair that might not, you know, put questions in my mind as to how it's affecting the foundation of the houses around there, okay? 20 hose. Again, often after it's repaired, becomes a little sinkhole. Dangerous to drive through, okay? And thanks to the police department, they've come about and put some warning cones on occasions. And my neighbor Timmy, who has an abundance of cones, and he goes and drops it on just to, you know, alert people not to drive over these holes. So, you know, in short, I have a lot more to say, but the real thing is we should look at, as a city, and be reasonable to look at, is 20 repairs the way to go? 20 times X number of repeats. So it's actually more than 20. If you drive up and down the street, and I'm sure you have, because you used to live there.
Yep.
Right.
I can
Doesn't
verify
look the
what
same
you're
anymore.
saying.
It's got pockets, you know, all over the place. So for a homeowner in that area, it's a shame to even have friends over.
Thank you, Mr. Yao. And I'd encourage you to follow up with, you know, Councilmember Goss or myself, or even our city manager regarding our plan going. We do have a plan, but I want to make sure you're informed of it. So make sure you reach out and we'll follow up.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just saw that I need to come down and say something.
No, I do appreciate
Can I
it.
comment real
Please,
quick?
please.
Mr. Yao, I just want you to know that we do have and it's public, we do have a infrastructure plan that has various streets with troublesome water mains prioritized.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where yours is, we don't have time in the meeting tonight, but if you contact the Public Works Department, they can tell you where your street is situated, and we will discuss this and see what we can do about that.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And more importantly, I think maybe the city engineer can let us know if there are any, you know, deleterious effects to the foundation. My neighbor's house, we've seen his driveway lift already, and the asphalt close by, they also lifted.
Thank you, Mr. Yao. And I know we're going a little off script here, but I believe our city manager would like to make a quick comment. But no more comment, but let's
thank you
hear
so
from the city manager, please.
Mayor, I just want to inform you that I did take a trip out with our Public Works Director to that area, and we did note the number of leaks that are occurring there, and we are going to prioritize that area, and we're looking for a solution.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yao. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Joel Goodwin.
Well, good evening, Mayor Garcia and members of our great city council. You guys all know me, Joel Goodwin, 390 West Terramari Boulevard. I just want to address real quick. Recently, there was a big dispute between Disney and what was going on with Spectrum. Several Spectrum channels were taken away in our neighborhoods, and I'm really glad they got the problem resolved. For up to 2 weeks, it was a real annoyance having to be about several channels. And I'm a multi-year payer of Spectrum, and it was really annoying. It was really inconvenient to be without several channels for up to 2 weeks time, I'm really glad we got resolved, really glad to have the challenge back, but I just want to express it was annoying and it was disturbing for a little while to have to handle it.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have any other speaker cards, and city staff did not receive any emails on these topics.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Just I know that it came in late, but just at the beginning of the meeting, we did receive an email related to an item that's on the agenda. I don't know if you've got that. So. Yes. So I know that we're not at that point, but I because people didn't be able to see it, maybe we can have that teed up because it's agenda item.
Okay, thank you. I think
And I maybe
generally
bring it up.
the practice of the email comes in after 3.
I understand.
Okay, but thank you, thank you. All right. Next, we get to welcome our esteemed guests. We have Board Member Tina Wu Fredericks. We have Principal Newsom, Principal Marqueso, and Interim Superintendent Dr. Blanco. Please welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia, Pro Tem Krebs, Council Members Goss, Parkhurst, and Lowe. Great to see the familiar and new faces. Yes, I am Tina Fredericks, Board Member POSD, and happy to be back. Thank you for the invitation. We were here last year, and I do want to thank the executive staff and especially Ms. Malfitano for securing this spot for us. And then before you have the orange bags there. I asked Dr. Blanco to, only a few hours ago, to gather up some swag. You have POSD swag, as well as Sierra Madres and an enrollment guide, the 100-day plan that Dr. Blanco has created, and a feedback form if you want to give us feedback. So, real tough act to follow with the bears and the leaks, so will be very easy. So thank you again for the invitation. Would love to make this a tradition annually, and if maybe every time we come, we can schedule the next one so we don't, forget next time. And it was great to have coffee and conversation with a few of you. I had a great conversation with Mr. Garcia and Mr. Parkhurst and Mayor Goss and Ms. Krebs, so since the last time we're here. It would be wonderful to meet with the new council member Lowe. And we actually, all four of us here were lucky enough to participate in the July 4th parade. Sierra Madre had a wonderful time. We brought our band, and we'll probably talk about that in a little bit, but I was a little nervous because it was like the first time for me, and the community was just so wonderful and welcoming. It was just a blast. So we were so happy to do it again. As we were marching or walking the parade, the principals here were thinking about the next year and bring more fun stuff.
Did you and Dr. Blanco hold the banner the whole time, or did you guys trade off? I was curious.
Yeah, it was
okay.
I strayed off.
I was impressed at you. Okay.
I had to pass out gold stickers to the kids, so I had duty.
Thank you for coming, by the way.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And so I guess I just want to frame this as, our shared responsibility on the students that attend the Sierra Madre schools. Those are, our community here, the families. So whatever we can do together to collaborate, to support those students and families, like, we are very open to those opportunities. And then, so I guess from last presentation, we want to really focus on Sierra Madre. I think we could have been more detailed on the Sierra Madre data and the schools. So this presentation, I made sure that we have that for you. And I even didn't have to ask our principals to show up. They just wanted to be here. So very happy that they could be here. I know principals are so busy, so really appreciate them. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our interim superintendent, Dr. Blanco.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and other guests. It's an honor to be here and share information with you about Pasadena Unified, which includes the city of Sierra Madre and our 2 schools in Sierra Madre. So we've been working for the past year on designing a new strategic plan. And so this year we're going to be working on the implementation plans that will be part of the big picture. So on this slide I'm sharing with you our new mission that was adopted by the board. We want our students to be successful in an ever-evolving world and, you know, committed to cultural responsiveness and academic excellence. We shortened our vision so we can remember it. We will transform education to empower students to succeed. And then there are a few links to the new strategic plan. As I mentioned, the implementation plans are under development right now. Our educational master plan, which was completed simultaneously with the strategic plan, and then the 100-day plan that I'm implementing in with our other executive leaders called the Superintendent's Leadership Team, and we're going around visiting our schools and getting input from all of our community members on what they see as the strengths, challenges, strategies for improvement. We'll use that information to develop the implementation plans for the strategic plan. So these are the strategic pillars that were adopted by the board, and this was done after a lot of work by 5 design teams, which included many members across the cities that we serve. So learner-focused instruction, really producing learners that we hear their voices and that they're going to be college and career ready to go out into the world when they leave us. Outstanding respected employees, that our employees are valued and supported by us. Quality learning environment, that's what we're working on through our bond and our other resources to really upgrade our environments. And we do have Sierra Madre Elementary on the list for a $3 million air conditioning project in summer of '24, so I know that's been long-standing need here. Effective, responsible, accountable organization where we really want to be accountable to our community and the people we serve. And then purposeful collaboration with our families to increase trust. And part of the way that we're increasing trust is we're holding all of our superintendent leadership meetings at schools, walking alongside our employees and really getting feedback from our community partners. So I will let Dr. Mercurso take it over from here.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Garcia and City Council members. Thank you for this time to share some successes about your namesake school, Sierra Madre Elementary School. On the slide here, you can see who we serve. We have a very diverse community. We serve 630 students, K-5. We also have a pre-K on campus. Those numbers are not included in that 630, so that's our K-5 population, and we serve a variety of learners each and every day that come to our school. And I've meant to say and start with, I appreciate the collaboration I've had with the city. This is only my 2nd year at the elementary school, and I've created great relationships with the fire department, police department, city planners as we've tried to work with our pickup and drop-off situation, because I know that creates a little excitement twice a day. So I really do appreciate the support of the city and our school and making sure that our families and students are safe. Because as you can see, we have a lot of them that we serve and get in every morning at 7:50 and out every day by 2:30. Next slide, please. Last year, we had a lot of great accomplishments. So our students compete in all of our district events, such as our district innovation exposition. That is it's like a science fair, but better. Students get to compete. It actually was my baby project 10 years ago, so I'm a little biased on the innovation exposition, but students actually compete in 5 different areas, all the way from science fiction to scientific inquiry, so I invite you guys to come out and see our district event in December. because you just get to see what all of our students are capable of doing, but we took first place there in a couple categories. The No Boundaries Art Contest, our students were showcased and excelled in. The Spelling Bee, we took second place. African American History Bee, we had representation. Math Field Day for both district, and county, we placed first overall for our 5th grade team, and then at county we placed first in 2 events for our 4th and 5th grade teams. And then our California State History Day, we had students compete and come home with a medal from there. So we have a lot of great things happening. Last year, we were also recognized as a California Distinguished School Award for 2 areas. Schools were awarded that for having high student achievement overall, which I'm going to show you some data slides after my colleague talks about the middle school. So we had high student achievement overall for all of our students, but we also were closing the achievement gap between the subgroups that we serve. And that's what schools needed to meet in order to receive that seal. It's a 2-year award, so we'll be working on getting that seal back in 2025. We offer a robust school-wide visual and performing arts program. Students get an hour of visual art a week. They get an hour of music a week. They get an hour of PE. They get an hour of gardening. We have a beautiful garden on campus. And they also, every grade level gets to perform a spotlight show on our stage. I don't know if you've been to our auditorium. I believe we're hosting potentially the State of the City, so you'll get to see it for yourself. We have a full auditorium and theater, because when our school was built in 1930, it was built as a community theater, so we have all of the aspects of that. But our students all get to perform on there at least once during the year, if not more. So we're proud of the visual and performing arts program that we have, because we know that that helps students as we connect it to their academics, and we work hard to do that. We also have after-school programs. We have 2 after-school programs, the PUSD Learns program and then Homework Club, which supports about half of our population until 6 p.m. daily. We also have a very strong parent, volunteer, and involvement group. Last year, we have monthly events, and some of these events are hosted in Memorial Park, such as our Welcome Back event, where families get to come and meet other families and get ready for the school year. We have Fall Festival, which is coming up. SME has talent. You can see some of our little guys playing the ukuleles on stage. We have a literacy nights, actually next Thursday. If you're free, come on by. It's open to everybody. We have a readathon currently going on, where we encourage kids to read minutes, and they make, it's a fundraiser as well. Jogathon, family dance, STEAM night, and then last year we had a campus beautification, because we had a lot of rain last year, which means we had a lot of growth last year. But overall, last year we had 1,415 total volunteer visits, and that equaled 2,105 volunteer hours. And that's outside of the monthly family events. We don't capture those as hours. Those are families and parents in our classrooms supporting our students. Okay. And so with that, I am going to pass it on to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Newsom.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Garcia and City Council members. What a treat to be able to connect with you this evening about the great things that are happening at both of our campuses. It's my privilege this evening just to share with you a little bit about Sierra Madre Middle School, and so you can see who we serve as well too. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that with the incorporation of the Mandarin Dual Language Immersion Program at our site, we have several more students coming to our school from outside of Sierra Madre as part of our district as well. So you can see that our diversity has definitely grown, and some of our demographics have changed during that time. In addition, on the right-hand side, what's been a big impact for us at our site is that we're now at 44.6% of our students identified as socioeconomically disadvantaged. And I think that was as low as 25% when I started 18 years ago here at Sierra Madre. And so that has had a huge impact, because with that comes Title I funding. And that has been very valuable in addressing some of the needs of our lower performing students. So anytime I talk about Sierra Madre Middle School, I always talk about our core values, and these 3 core values have guided every decision that I have made as the principal of Sierra Madre Middle School, that first being academic achievement. Our students have a long history of achievement both in and out of the classroom, whether it be the work that they're doing with their teachers or the different activities and events that they take part in, some of the similar to Sierra Madre Elementary, from Math Field Day to History Day, our robotics program, our Science Olympiad team, a lot of great achievement going on. In addition to creative culture, you'll see a lot of examples of things that our students create, but we also like to say that creative culture defines how we think creatively as a school community and work collaboratively to overcome any obstacles that we've faced along the way. And then that last, of course, is perhaps the most important, especially now, and that is providing for a safe and nurturing environment. Really excited this year that with our district support that at our site, every secondary school in POSD, and I believe elementary as well, now has a full-time wellness teacher at their site whose entire focus is to see to the social and emotional health of the students and the staff. So just a couple of highlights as I was thinking about tonight. This is actually our 20th year in existence as a middle school. We started out with under 200 kids. In fact, I think we didn't have a promoting 8th grade class that year. And I think there were still kindergartners on the campus who hadn't made their transition back to the elementary campus after construction. But in that span, we have grown from 200 students. We've literally tripled in size. So we have 593 students this year, making us now the second largest middle school in the PUSD. Also, of course, in that period of history, we had the distinct blessing of being able to build an entirely brand new campus. That 5-year experience was a little bit interesting, but the benefits that we have been able to reap from that and in terms of being able to offer a comprehensive middle school program to our students has been amazing. In terms of the electives that we offer, strong electives in computer science, visual arts, instrumental music, and musical theater. We also have a newly formed Hawk Rock group that is one of our new electives. We also have a Hawk News elective, and so we have a group of students who every week you'll see them out during third period. They're out on the grounds doing different interviews and different segments for the news show that's then aired every single Monday morning as part of our advisory, and then a very strong robotics program as well. The two main signature programs from our district at our site are our Mandarin Dual Language Immersion Program. The majority of our students in that program feed in from Field Elementary School. We do have students from time to time who will test into that program, but again, the majority do come from Field. We have as many as 85 to 90 students that will be coming next year as part of that, so that has really grown. And students in that program take 2 of their classes throughout the day in Mandarin, and the rest of their classes are in English. Then we also have the Math Academy, which is only offered at 3 schools in our district, and students in our Math Academy actually take on all 3 years of middle school math and all 4 years of high school math in their 3 years with us, and they end up taking the AP Calculus test in 8th grade. Now, I took that when I was a senior in high school, and that was challenging enough at that time, but it's been absolutely amazing to see what our students have been able to accomplish in that program. And then just a few of our accomplishments along the way. Last year was a wonderful year, bringing back some great traditions and a lot of success. We had all 3 grade levels, went on to the Math Field Day at the county level. Our Science Olympiad team went on to the state level, and I'm particularly proud of them because that is all parent run. And when we're at those competitions, we're up against schools that literally come in with semi-trucks with all of their equipment, and here we are, just kind of this small group. So to get to the state level competition was huge. We actually had one of our students went to the History Day level the national level, I'm sorry, of History Day. I didn't even know they had a national level, and she went on and received honorable mention. So incredibly proud of her. And then, of course, as we shared, our marching band has been growing in size, and we participated in our first Sierra Madre 4th of July parade. Unfortunately, it was a learning experience for me just how out of shape I was, and so we are looking forward to continuing that tradition, and I am already preparing for next year.
All right, so I was asked to share some data with you, and I know that at schools we live and breathe these colors and this data. To give you an idea of what you're looking at, green and blue is meets or exceeds standard. So that's the percentage of students who met or exceeded standard on the state level test. The CAS stands for the California Assessment of Student Progress and Performance. I think I got that right. And so this is a comparison of how we did this past year. The students in 3rd through 8th grade take ELA and math. At the end, in the springtime is when we give that assessment. So you can see Sierra Madre Elementary Schools and Sierra Madre Middle Schools data as compared to PUSD's overall data for those grade levels. So you can see that we're outperforming some of our other schools and counterparts. And that's then this is last year. So the state of California has not yet released the state level data. I know it's a little tiny and I apologize. The same color bands is what you're looking at. Because we don't have state level data at this time for 22-23, this is looking at 21-22. Same idea, both Sierra Madre Elementary and Sierra Madre Middle School are performing greater than students in the entire state of California, as you can see by that color band. Okay. Similar trends in ELA. So this is our 2022-23 English Language Arts. I tend to speak in education-y, so I apologize. I try to remind myself to break down what ELA stands for. So these are the achievement scores for reading and writing together. So students are assessed both in reading and writing. If you're not familiar with the state assessment, there's two parts. There's your traditional short response, multiple choice, and then there's a performance task, which means it gives them a scenario, and the students usually have to write or problem solve in math and be able to explain their reasoning in both of those areas. And that's what comes up with these scores. Okay, so that's ELA for 22-23. Our school comparisons to PUSD, and then the next slide is, again, the state achievement level for 21-22 in English Language Arts. And again, you can see that our schools are meeting and exceeding standard at larger percentages than students in other California schools. And I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Fredericks now to close us up.
I think I figured out I don't really need to be here. They just come back next time. So I'm just overwhelmed with pride with our Sierra Madre schools. They're just going strong, and again, I just want to make sure you all have my card. Make sure you all have my card. So, you know, whatever questions you have, if we can't answer them here, you can always reach out to me. But we are open to questions of what you just saw, and but we can always continue it later. So I do want to thank my interim superintendent, Dr. Blanco, Dr. Marqueso, and Mr. Newsom for being here. I know they didn't have to be, but they took the extra time to be here. And we are absolutely, it's our pleasure to be here for you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Board Member Fredericks. Do we have any questions for the principals, the interim superintendent, or our board member? Yes, please.
Hi, very nice to meet you. Dr. Blanco, I've heard amazing things. Congratulations on your interim position, and I've really heard some fantastic things. I have some questions in relation to Pasadena High School, since our high schoolers obviously usually go on from elementary school to middle school and then the high school, but we haven't seen the data on that. And I know it's a bigger struggle with the high schools and the secondary level than it is with our middle school and our elementary school. Could I contact you at some point and get some of that data?
We can send the data to you. You know, all of our high schools in the past have exceeded both the state and county graduation rates. And I know it's always troublesome when you see the red, right? It's troublesome for our board too. But what's always amazing is that so many of our students cross the finish line, not only with honors, they go to some of the most prestigious colleges in the United States. So we also have a map from our foundation that I can send to you that shows where all of our children are going to college. So and Pasadena High School does very well. So we'll be sending you that data.
Thank you, Dr. Blanco. And just to kind of follow up on that, and I did speak with Board Member Fredericks when we had that great meeting. It was a couple hours long, and we had a great meeting. Do we have any data on historical trends on the transition from Sierra Madre Middle School to the high school? Because there is, I have a student there right now, and there is a great education to be had there. And I'm just curious as to what the trend is and what strategies there are in place to encourage the middle schoolers to then carry on to PHS or Blair, Muir, or Marshall.
Well, I do believe we have a summer bridge program, and there is a relationship between Mr. Newsom and the high school, principals, and I'm not sure if we're still having the visits.
Well, yeah, and so I don't have hard, fast data for you, but I can speak anecdotally of my experience. So when I first came to Sierra Madre Middle School, it was a smaller percentage of students who were going on to Pasadena High School, but that has truly grown over the years. And so I'm not going to try to give you a direct quote in terms of what the actual numbers are, but that has increased significantly. And I've found that when I've been over there and had the chance to observe different activities happening at Pasadena High School, it's like, wow, we really kind of took over this place. And you'll still see kids in their class of 20 whatever shirts that they got when they were with us in middle school. But specifically, we have a shadow day, so all of our 8th graders have the opportunity to go to Pasadena High School. They get to tour the campus, they get to go into the classrooms, get to see all the different groups that are on that campus as well. And then we also have an information night at our own campus, and so Pasadena High School comes out in force and has the opportunity to meet with our parents as well.
Thank you.
In terms of your question regarding marketing and encouragement, it's really parents are the best word of mouth, right? And so, you know, it's interesting how children matriculate, they find new friends. It's harder for parents to find new friends, so they kind of stay in herds, you know, in groups as the students move up. So I think, you know, just the comment you made is really a fantastic way to help us encourage more students to come.
Yeah, and I think it's important for the community to understand that, you know, Pasadena High School has quite a few academies which are bridges to you know, careers going forward. We have Muir High School, which is our early college magnet, which is amazing. They, from my understanding, I don't want to take your thunder, but they're able to attend college courses on campus at Muir High School and graduate with an AA degree, which is
That's true.
amazing. We have the baccalaureate program, which a lot of people aren't familiar with, over at Blair. And Marshall's a magnet for the arts. And
They have a career pathway for arts, but they also have AP classes at the highest level and AP capstone project. So we have a full portfolio of high schools. I don't think there's anything that you won't find that you would be interested in. Really, the private school at the public school price. So I encourage, you know, people to go on the tours and see what we have to offer. We just were awarded at Octavia E. Butler Magnet Model Demonstration School Award from National Magnet Program. Of the 3 schools in California that have that distinction, which is the highest distinction for magnets, we have 2 of them, Altadena and OEB. So we do have great things going on. I think, you know, maybe sometimes people just don't know or take the time to really see what's happening in Pasadena Unified.
Mr. Mayor?
thank you. Yes, please.
I know this anecdotally, but it might be worth mentioning given the recitation that the mayor just gave. But is it true that, you know, obviously our geographically designated school for Sierra Madre students, Sierra Madre resident students, is Pasadena High School, but my understanding is there's a fairly liberal inter-district transfer program such that if another high school within the district is better suited for your student, it's not the onerous process that people might think it is to not attend their geographically designated school.
Yeah, we have an open enrollment district, so you could select any of the high schools within the district. There are, you know, timelines, but, you know, residents and students who are already going to our schools have priorities. And I don't think that at this point that we're not able to let any students in. It's sometimes the parents coming from outside the district because our policy has them wait a little longer, or they get anxious about waiting, you know, so they might make another choice. So we're working on that. But internally, our students can definitely make choice.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please.
Yeah, I'd like to address Board Member Fredericks if I could.
Oh, sorry.
And by the way, thank you for those questions. They were really great questions.
First, I want to thank you for working with me to try to get the middle school gym open. As you know, we haven't accomplished that yet. We ran into some roadblocks with some changes in staff at PUSD, and there may be some budgetary questions that we'll have to deal with here, but I want you to know I'm still interested in it, and I'm going to see if I can get it agendized as a council agenda item, and maybe we can get the full force of the council behind it and maybe make that happen sometime soon, because the youth in this community could really use a place, particularly when it gets dark and cooler and wetter in the winter time, to go in the evenings and have a place to recreate. So And I just want you to know, I appreciate all that you've done. I know you did a lot, and let's just stick with it.
Absolutely. Thank you for reminding all of us. And yes, we will schedule that. Do you have a status on that at all?
It's not a problem at all for you to use the gym. I think the only cost really that is mandatory would be the custodial cost. We can waive any other types of fees that there are for our partnership. And Mr. Carrasco is the new director of facilities, so you can reach out to me and I can set up a meeting with him at your earliest convenience.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other questions for our comments for our contingent here?
I have a quick comment. So I just want to thank Dr. Macheso for your quick feedback to my neighbor, Andy, on the beautification of the school. We really appreciate how quickly you jumped into it and are working on that. So thank you for doing that and continuing to create a great learning environment for our residents and their children.
Thank you. I really do appreciate the four of you coming down and taking time out of your busy schedules. I'm committed to continuing open communication between this council and the district. We're thrilled with what we have as far as the two schools that are within our city, and also with the high schools. But with those two schools we have in our city, we as residents have a lot of pride, and we want to make sure achievement, recognition, all those things continue. You're doing a great job. Let's still stick together and make sure we're talking to one another. And thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia, and thank you to the council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more presentation. I know you've been sitting here for a while, most of you, but let's do one more, the other presentation. I think it's going to be pretty quick, and then I'd like to take a break since we've been here for a while, a short 10-minute break. So if I can invite up Librarian Regan and Deputy, I always get the titles wrong. Deputy Director Arnolfo.
There you go.
Yanez, there you go.
Perfect. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Garcia and honorable members of the City Council. Arnolfo Yanez, Deputy Director of Public Works for the City of Sierra Madre. Library redesign and improvements update. Interior and exterior modifications has begun at 350 West Sierra Madre Boulevard, formerly the Bank of America building, for the purpose to serve as a temporary library location. These modifications include removal and demolition of interior walls and counters, including the ballistics security glass, construction of new office space, new interior painting of the entire first floor, removal and installation of new commercial grade flooring to the entire first floor level, preparation of office space on the second floor level to accommodate the storage of the archive collection, exterior preparation of the parking lot, which consists of restriping of parking stalls, including ADA signage. Moving on to archive move. King Office Services, located in Santa Fe Springs, will begin the move of relocating the archive collection to the temporary library location on Tuesday, September 26th. The big move. Currently, we are in the process of requesting bids, RFPs, proposals. Currently, they are in our website and out available to the public. This past Friday, we had a mandatory walk of the project, which was conducted last Friday. We had 4 moving companies who participated in the mandatory walkthrough. Those proposals are due on Thursday, September 21st. Currently, TSK Architects has completed surveying the property. Reports show no issues related to the topography on the property. This is definitely a very good sign. At this time, we have now completed an important phase of the project, and this is very important. This schematic design phase, also known as SDP. Schematic design is a rough construction drawing that offers a general overview of a project's basic features and construction cost estimates, allowing you to determine if your concept fits within the project budget. At this time, SDP has been submitted to the City of Sierra Madre. I have reviewed it along with our city administration. The configurations and cost analysis fall within the proposed budget. Very good news. The schematic design included a complete description of the building systems, structural, mechanical, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and elevator design and mechanics, including interior and exterior finishes of the building. With this phase complete, we simultaneously move into another important phase, design development phase. In design development phase, the schematic plans and elevations are reviewed, revised, and expanded to incorporate all the details and specifications required for construction. Project components are looked at into the smallest of all details. This includes interior and exterior building materials and finishes. In the interest of time, many of these phases are overlapping. As we all know, it's a completion date of January of 25. The next component is currently happening right now as we speak, which is the geotech report. For the past couple of days, geotech engineers have been on site boring and conducting drilling on the property to the depths of 15 to 75 feet in areas throughout the property. The study, along with the final findings report, is for the soil composition on the property. This is very important to the project due to the amount of weight that this project will add to the existing construction. As of late yesterday and as early this afternoon, numbers were given to me. I can say that early analysis show a very beautiful decomposed granite. As you can see, I'm getting very excited because it's soil and loam. So I'm very excited. This means we have some good dirt here. This is very good. Any questions, Council?
Really quick, just for clarification, when you were talking before about the exterior interior modifications, that's starting at the temporary library. When you moved over to when we talked about the after the big move, when you're talking about the topography and the SDP, is that for the building for the temporary library building, or is that for the site of our new library?
I apologize if I was not clear with that. It is for the current library, which is the old library.
Okay, good.
Additional questions?
Please.
Would it be possible for the future updates to have the overall timeline? That would just be really helpful, just to kind of, you are here type of thing from the start to the end, so that we can just kind of know what's going on, and that'll just help us answer questions from people in the community and really help us prepare for supporting you and making sure that we meet all of the timelines and deliverables.
Definitely, Council Member. I can provide that for you.
Great.
And to all of you.
Great, thank you.
And that leads to my question is, as far as, because I know there is a timeline set in order to meet our deadline, which, that deadline, so how are we doing? I know sometimes we can get ahead, we can get behind. Are we within a margin of comfortableness? Where are we on the schedule?
I want to say we are in a margin of
comfort. Is that a term, comfortableness? Margin of comfortableness?
It's a word. I'm sure Webster will
so
back me up.
We're not behind or too far behind?
We're not behind and we're not too far ahead. Okay. I usually like to give a 2-week cushion with projects of this magnitude. We're about in a comfortable part that we're scheduled.
And I don't know if Librarian Regan was going to speak. If not, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I did just a couple of questions as far as the big move. It's my understanding, because I get a little inside baseball because I get to go to the Board of Trustees meetings. So does the public, but I'm there. And I know that some of the collection, obviously we're not taking the whole collection over to 350 West Sierra Madre Boulevard. Have we made decisions on which, I know that's going to be kind of a painful decision, or it's kind of tough, but on which parts of the collections are we already past that point? We've decided which collection is coming to the temporary building, and where we have temporary storage for the others. And then finally, I'd like to just have you speak a little bit to the public about from what I saw, the community room, just so they know that that's something that was envisioned and could be done, is going to be done for our residents.
I will pass it on to Librarian Regan.
Thank you.
So we have decided as far as the moving timeline goes, the library will close to the public starting Monday, October 16th. So from that point, check out all your books. We will we will extend any due dates, so you'll be able to hold on to your items until we reopen at the temporary location. And the actual move will start Monday, October 30th. So we'll be closed to the public to allow staff time to prep. We have a lot of prep work to do. Right now we are going through our collections. It looks like we will be able to take about half of our collection to the temporary library space. We've been very creative with that, and that is in regards to our linear shelf footage. So we can take half to our temporary space and half will go into storage, and the half that is in storage will not be accessible to the public at all, unfortunately. So we do know that we'll get about half. We're trying to keep as much as we can and allow space for purchases, new materials.
Thank you. And a schematic was shared at the last Board of Trustees meeting. Is that on our transparency portal and website?
It is on our transparency page, and it was. Oh, we put it up after it was presented at the TSK meeting on August 16th. So we have that. I have the closing report almost done for that. That will also go up on our transparency page, and you can also watch the meeting. It was live streamed and recorded, so you're welcome to watch the TSK meeting. The bigger comments on that were the northwest reading room area. They wanted to keep that intact, and there was some commentary on the trees, and that was kind of the highlights. And we are getting a lovely meeting room. We're still working some logistics with that. I met with with TSK Architects today to go over some final design concerns. So we do also have the schematic design, or the design up at the library, where you're welcome to come by and take a look at it if you don't want to see it on a screen or print it out. I did print it out in a large format, so you're welcome to come by, and if you have comments, I do have post-it notes there that you're welcome to put up, and I have been reading them, and it's been nice to see. Some of the comments are very encouraging, and some are, I like the library the way it is, which we totally understand. We're very excited for this opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you to both of you and all staff. We're really moving for a municipality at lightning speed from the time TSK was hired to where we are now. So I do recognize that. I know a lot of it's out of necessity, but thank you for all your hard work and where we are at this point. The fact that we're still on schedule makes me happy.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
Just two questions. Again, I'll echo what the mayor said. He does it much better than I do, but it's a phenomenal job of what you're doing. One is considering the time frame of I think you said October 16th of when you're going to close down the library and things won't be accessible. What type of communication plan do you have on that? How are you getting the word out to people to make sure they know that they only have half as much available to them, and to get it now?
We did, thank you for that question. We did have a staff meeting to address that issue, to kind of see what we were thinking about. So we have some options outside of just social media, because we know we have gotten that feedback at the town hall meeting earlier this year that not everyone is on social media anymore. So we do have some options outside of social media. There's always Nixle, which is a great resource. It has been mentioned to put a notice in the water bill, so there's that commentary as in addition to flyers. And we also have in front of the library a large A-frame sign that says that we are temporarily relocating. And I do want to mention that we will be relocating for, it might be up to 2 years. While we do not have an extension on the grant currently, we are hoping we might be able to get one. So we are just letting the public know that we may be in the temporary space at 350 West Sierra Madre Boulevard for up to 2 years. Having the design in the library has been a great reminder for the public. And I think another good thing, not really good, but starting when we start the archive move, all of the artwork will be taken off the walls, which I'm sure the public will notice as well. But we are trying to, everyone who comes into the library, also engage them in that way and let them know that we are moving. We have our transparency page, which has a QR code, and we are doing our best. But if anyone has suggestions, we are very open to that. So we're looking for ways to reach the public, especially now that we're a little less than a month out from when we'll be shutting down.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
So I assume it's in the mailing that's going to be delivered next week,
Yes.
So
it is
that's,
also
and
in
that's
the
going to
newsletter.
all households, correct?
And we have been putting it on the Village View as well every chance we get.
And then I guess my other suggestion would be perhaps to talk to Susan Henderson about doing something in the paper as well.
Yes. So
not so much an ad, but like maybe she could
Right.
actually do. I mean, just for
Yeah.
for attention. I feel like the articles may get more attention than the ads.
No, I agree. I've been trying to figure out the best way to put it in there. For the Friends of the Library newsletter, I actually wrote like a very comprehensive letter with a timeline. So I'm thinking maybe that might be a good way too. I think the bigger concern from the public that I've been hearing is the timeline. So I'm trying to get that out as much as I can, as quick as I can. October 16th is our closing date, and we're hoping to reopen in December at the temporary. So.
I had one other question. And thank you for all the planning. It's clear you've really thought through it. Your passion comes through in it. We're so lucky to have you and Mr. Arnolfo. I'm like the mayor. I forget titles. I apologize. You guys are doing an incredible job on this. One of the questions I had was, so we've got half of the collection going into storage. Have you thought about, like, if we get a run on everything and people go check out a lot of books and then go try to return them? Have you thought through any logistics of that? Is that an issue at all? I just don't know. I just can imagine that, everybody goes and check everything out and then they've got to hold it for 2 years I'm not sure kind of how it works. So I would just.
Oh, yes, that's a great question, actually. So we actually are encourage everyone, if there's a book you want to read, to check it out before October 16th, and then we can incorporate it into what's going to be at the temporary library. So we're encouraging everyone to check out as many books as you'd like for October 16th, and the best part is you'll get an extension for that due date until when we open at the temporary in December. So you'll have a little bit more time. The selection process for what's going into storage is going to be more dependent on the checkout history. So if it's already checked out, we don't have to like rush it over to storage. We're hoping people will check out the books they really like, and those are the ones we'll get to keep in the library moving forward.
Anyone else? Thank you. I really appreciate it. I know you're super busy. The intention wasn't for having this as a standing agenda item wasn't to create more work for you, even though I do know it's more work. But I think in the interest of the public, it's important to have these twice monthly updates, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all.
Sure. Thank you. And let's take a 10-minute break, return at 7:15. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you. call the meeting back to order. All right, thank you for your patience for that short break. We'd like to now go forward with our consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, could you please read the consent items by title only?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before the City Council this evening are 4 items for consideration. Consent item A is consideration of Resolution 23-60 approving certain demands. It is city staff's recommendation that the City Council approve Resolution 23-60. Consent item B is the amendment to the list of purchase orders over $45,000. It is recommended that the City Council approve the blanket purchase amendment. Consent item C is consideration of Resolution 23-61 approving an amendment to the Joint Powers Agreement with the Los Angeles Regional Agency. It is recommended that the City Council adopt Resolution 23-61. And lastly, consent item D is consideration of award to change order number 1 for the 2023 Downtown Water Main Installation Sidewalk Enhancement and Street Improvement Project, recognized as number ST82302, in an amount not to exceed $79,447.96. It is recommended that the City Council approve the changes to order number 1. Mr. Mayor, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. All right, Council, do we have any questions on item A of the consent calendar? B? C?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
So I just wondered if, actually, I'm not sure who can answer this, so maybe it doesn't matter, but we didn't get a comparison of the changes that were requested to the JPA. I just wondered if there was any updates of note. Do we think that, I assume that there was nothing that increased our liability or exposure or anything like that.
Generally speaking, it was
I didn't see you.
a very minor adjustment. I could go back and ask him for a red line if that would make you comfortable, but we did share this with our city attorney pretty early on. And now that many of the other cities in the agency are getting through their council, we thought it was appropriate to bring it to you and not be the first and not be the last.
Got it, and you haven't seen any of the other members make significant changes?
No, it really isn't.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on item C? Okay. Questions on item D?
Sorry, yes.
Yes, please.
I just wondered, in reading the staff report, one thing that occurred to me, obviously this is going to be constructed on city property and obviously address the potential hazard of the city's configuration of the street dead ending into the boulevard. But it is, obviously right outside the curbside dining for the only place in town. I just wondered if there had been any discussions with the restaurant about, the direction we were going and whether that was part of the planning.
I'll let Director Semino answer that.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for that question. Yes, we have been in communications with the restaurant owners there, and they are, obviously in favor of making it as protective as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Semino. Okay, moving on to public comment. Do we have any cards for public comment on the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, we did not receive any emails on this topic, nor do we have any speaker cards.
Okay, bring it back to council for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have any recommendation on C? Do you want to see those red lines?
No,
or?
I was fine
Okay.
with the response. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on items A through D? No. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to our discussion items. Next, we have consideration of Resolution 23-62 adopting the memorandums of understanding between the City of Sierra Madre and the Classified Employees Association, and Resolution 2363 amending the classification plan and salary matrix. I believe we have Assistant City Manager
Miguel Hernandez.
There I go again. Okay, thank you. I know your name, Miguel. I mean,
I know. It's been a long day. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. Before you today, we have the consideration of Resolution 2362, adopting the Memorandum of Understanding, and Resolution 2363, amending the classification plan and salary matrix. Over the course of several months, the city has met and conferred with the respective Classified Employees Association bargaining group to review the terms and conditions of employment through the MOU. The agreement on both sides was to provide for a 5% increase that would go into effect the beginning of this fiscal year, a 5% increase to go into effect the beginning of next fiscal year. In addition to the cost of living adjustment, the city and the Classified Employees Association agreed to a contribution to the city's deferred compensation plan, the 457 deferred compensation plan, of a matching funds of not to exceed $50 per month, which would be a $25 per payroll contribution to match if the employees who voluntarily contribute to the 457 plan. So for example, if an employee is contributing $15, the city will match the $15 for that employee not to exceed $50 per month. Additionally, the union and the city agreed to increasing the on-duty call for our utilities department from $35 to $50 per 24-hour time frame. And that concludes the presentation I have for the adoption of the MOU. Oh, I'm sorry. There was one other item that was on the staff report, which was the creation of a permit technician for our planning department. And currently, we have an administrative aide that is working on some of the items that fulfill the permit technician, but still in the process of obtaining the certification for permit technician. But the creation of the position would have us ready to go when that change occurs with the employee.
thank you, Assistant City Manager Hernandez. Do we have any questions for Mr. Hernandez regarding this agenda item?
I've got a couple.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Question number one was, what has been our trends in cost of living? I mean, we've done really well, I think, at compensating our employees and trying to keep our employees, because we have the best employees for a city that I've seen. And what was the cost of living for Los Angeles County in 2021, 2002? Or can you give me an estimate of what those increases were?
So the last increase that occurred for our Classified Employees Association was in 2021. For a 2.5% cost of living for non-utilities employees and a 5% for utilities, and the CPI at that point was about 3.4%. The last year's CPI amount was 7%, or just a little over 7%. And so we take that into consideration when we're looking at the cost of living adjustment that would be a fair cost of living adjustment for the employees. And we felt that 5% would be fair. Considering that we have other unions that we're also negotiating with, as well as looking at the compaction that would occur as a result of cost of living adjustments for the unions and compaction in terms of the middle management and management level positions that have not had any cost of living adjustments for a while. So we take that into account as well. So the 5%. For now, it was the fair amount for both fiscal years to provide them.
Amazing. And then with this, I remember earlier, this was their salary scale and cost of living increase, but then we already addressed, and of course their separate account. I'm blanking on which type of account. Is that 457? Yes. And then we did their benefits for insurance and such prior, so that was part of a separate MOU.
Yeah. Yes. About a year ago, we negotiated an increase in our medical benefits, which had not been looked at for over 15 years. So increasing that in a tiered system, we negotiated for all bargaining groups to agree to the same amount so that we keep it consistent. So yeah, about a year ago, we negotiated that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Her questions answered mine.
Okay.
Assistant City Manager, can you tell us about the kind of the tenor and the kind of how the negotiations went? Kind of how were they? Were there any issues that were challenging to resolve? Or was it this the first pass that came through? Was this the first proposal? Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how the negotiations proceeded and? Yeah.
The meet and confer process with the Classified Employees Association went extremely well. The initial proposal came in, there were some questions regarding that, and we asked them to come back with some clarification, which they did. The city agreed to the second proposal that they came up with some minor modifications along the way, but overall the meet and confer process with the bargaining group went quite well, and both sides were very happy with the outcome of the negotiations, specifically with respect with what they came with, and then being able to come to an agreement with those proposals that was fair for them as well for the city.
Kudos to both parties for having a very productive conversation. I really appreciate that. It seems like that a win-win is always the best outcome, and I'm glad everybody came to the table with positive intention and thoughtful proposals. So, nice job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, so I believe you asked some of my questions. So I just wanted to have an understanding of what the previous wage increases had been, because as we know in 2022, I think you said 7%, but you might be looking at the CPI-UW. The CPI-U I think went up 8% in 2022, and we're looking last year it was up 4%. So that's, I know it's compounded, but that's quite a few percents relative to how it's been. So the real wage has been kind of decreasing through time. So I'm happy that we're able to keep our employees at least close to inflation, because that's the goal with cost of living adjustments. That's the way they're called, cost of living adjustments. So I'm glad that the union was able to come to the bargaining table, and we were able to accommodate that. And I know it's rare, and I don't know if you have any data on it, for some matching on 457Bs. Generally, the pension is the kind of carrot for public employees. But I know that we have, as Councilmember Lowe said earlier, some of the best employees, and they're so loyal. And as I said at last meeting, I was handing out, 10-year, 5-year, 10-year plaques at the mayor's lunch, and 15-year. It's been amazing that they've stuck with us so long. So I think hopefully we can continue to retain employees, and hopefully this is the carrot. And I'm assuming that was the reason for this. Was this asked for, or how did that part come about, the 457B contribution?
It was proposed by the union, which in having discussions, when you look at the fire union and the police union, who are receiving incentives through their pays, our classified employees, our utilities employees, they're not. There may be some stipends for certain certifications, but when you look at the overall, what other departments are receiving, or other bargaining groups are receiving, we felt that this was a fair and a nice incentive to provide them with the matching, and it's also to encourage them to set aside some of their funds to set up a separate retirement in addition to the service retirement through CalPERS. So in a way, it will encourage others to start contributing in that, and then as negotiations move forward in the future, perhaps that amount would increase. But right now it was a fair compromise to give them some kind of an incentive for their retirement.
Thank you. And that kind of jogged another question. So if we're thinking about our CEA employees, A, do they contribute to, and B, do they, for their work, do they receive benefits from Social Security?
The city does not withhold for Social Security because of the CalPERS retirement system that we're in.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Let's bring it to the public for public comment. Madam City Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, the city clerk's office did not receive any emails on this topic, and we have no speaker cards received either.
Thank you. Back to council for discussion. Any comments, discussion?
No, I agree with your, what you eventually phrased as a question.
You caught that, right?
So I agree with your commentary that became a question, about, that the need for, to keep all of our employees steady with, especially given the increase in costs, across the board, as well as, continuing to maintain, a respectable, percentage, against sort of the market, because, we know that we don't pay the most, but we need to make sure that we're staying within the range, our targeted range, so that, our employees feel like it's a good place to work, and with the intangible benefits, along with, the more tangible benefits, that we get the awarding of plaques, every year. So I'd like to award some plaques if I become mayor. I'm sure the other council members feel the same. And so to do that, I think we have to be, making these kinds of decisions. And this one overall seems, very reasonable, and it sounded like, everybody was happy with the outcome, which is also a win.
Thank you. Any other comments before we put it to a vote?
What she said.
Right?
I just really want to congratulate our city staff and Miguel and for working so hard on all of our different unions and our employees, because it's hard being a small city. And I even said that before. We're a full service city. For a tiny city of Sierra Madre, we're a full service. And we want to keep it that way. And we've asked our constituents what they want. Do they want to job things out? And they don't. They want to keep everything in-house. So to be able to accomplish this with the huge increase in cost of living in LA County, particularly in California, without normal salaries increasing, I think you guys have done such a fantastic job at bringing that up to a better level and making us more competitive. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you to CA for not asking for a 50% raise. Makes life a lot easier. So I'm more than thrilled to hear a motion on this.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2363, amending adopting the memorandums of understanding and amending the classification plan and salary matrix.
It's actually
2360. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is. It is two resolutions. Thank you for that. Yes. So I move to approve Resolution 2362, adopting the MOU, and Resolution 2363, amending the classification plan and salary matrix.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you. Don't go too far. Mr. Hernandez, we got another one. We have consideration of digital equity support for action.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. This item is brought to the council at the request of Councilmember Christine Lowe. At the August 22nd council meeting, Jorge Rivera, administrator for the Healing and Justice Center, presented to the City Council data on the disparity of access to high-speed internet throughout areas of Los Angeles County and statewide. At the request of Councilmember Lowe, city staff drafted a letter and seeking, recommending that City Council provide staff with direction. And that concludes, if any council member has any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for our Assistant City Manager, please?
This was the draft letter, right, that they provided a few draft letters. So this one goes to our Supervisor Barger, right?
Yes, it's addressed to Supervisor Barger.
And remind me again, what's Supervisor Barger's position on this?
It's requesting the City Council provide a letter of support to our supervisor to address this issue of disparity of high internet disparity through LA County. And other cities have also provided a letter of support to get the attention of the supervisors to bring this forward, to have a discussion, to try to make some effort in making some changes for areas of LA County that don't necessarily have the high-speed internet access.
And does Supervisor Barger have a position on this matter?
At this time, I don't know if there is a position on her end.
Councilmember Parkhurst, I can say that about a year ago, we received a letter from Supervisor Barger who brought some attention to digital, to challenges that low income and communities are facing. So they are aware of the situation. I think with the idea of raising concern to see if there's state or federal funding available to bring high-speed internet to those areas.
And do we know if the other 4 supervisors have similar positions, or are, I'll put it another way, do we know if any of the supervisors are opposed to this?
I am not aware.
No worries.
Any other questions? Okay, bring it to the public for public comment.
Mr. Mayor, there was an email that was forwarded earlier and it was within minutes before the city council meeting began. It's a letter from Jorge Rivera, and he's providing his support to the city council on this letter, and that is the only comment that we received. We don't have any speaker cards on this topic.
Is Mr. Rivera a member of the city? Is he resident here? Did he identify his address?
It did not indicate in his public comment, nor did he specify when he was here at the last council meeting.
Yeah, he was the presenter, I believe.
The presenter, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, the individual who submitted his public comment today is the presenter from the last council meeting, Jorge Rivera.
From Healing and Justice Center.
That is correct, Healing and Justice Center.
And thank you for giving the substance, because we didn't have the opportunity to review that public comment. Normally, we don't have the substance of the public comment from email, but for this one, we didn't have. Yeah, so thank you. All right, bring it back to the council for discussion.
So one of the reasons that this was coming forward, just to give a little more background, is that they want to bring it to the state level to create more policies for equity, for utilities such as internet to not be able to charge more in certain areas and less in other areas, because there is such an inequality to access. And we found this a lot during COVID, and now we're finding it still, to what we're seeing across every city, including ours, and considering that our middle school is now a Title I school, which means they get access to more funding because they are 46%, as we saw tonight from Pasadena Unified, that they're a 46% underprivileged group in their demographics. So that means that in our district, in our city, we're going to also experience some of those things. And as we know, some of us do have issues with internet accessibility. Thank you for bringing FiOS to our town to help that. But then the prices aren't always the same for different areas. So it's just trying to bring equity to everybody.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I think this may have been where Councilmember Goss was going with his question, and then I think it piggybacks on what Councilmember Lowe just said. And one thing I wondered is if it would have, the letter itself would have a little more impact if it was a little personalized. I mean, having received lots of emails, in our position, the more you get of the exact same letter, the less, the 30th time that letter has a little bit less impact than the first, did. And so I'm wondering if it would make sense to do a little bit of a personalization. So, and to Councilmember Lowe's point, make it maybe relevant, or try to make a case for the relevancy for Sierra Madre, because I don't think Sierra Madre as a community is one of these underserved, disadvantaged communities that's suffering from this problem. I mean, we do have competition here, and I do think we have, competitive pricing. May not be low, but it's competitive, and we do have access issues, which I think are geographic, not demographic. So I would like, and that's sort of my guiding policy as well when we consider sort of like taking action towards other agencies is, is it relevant for our residents? Is it relevant to Sierra Madre? And I really appreciated Councilmember Lowe's point about how we are now serving in our local school a population that may be coming from outside of our 3-mile square and may be suffering from these kinds of problems in where they're coming from, because they may be coming from a community that suffers from this problem.
Thank you.
I think it's
Comments?
Well, the idea is very noble, and I support the general idea. I have a couple of concerns. The first concern is I know nothing about the industry, but I know something about business, and I know that generally there are reasons why prices are higher in some places and lower in others. There are costs associated, that costs can be differential. So I'm not so sure that there is evidence out there of purposeful disparities. What I like about the wording of this, and why I could support the way it is worded, and you can adjust it any way you like, Mayor Pro Tem, because I think you're right about personalization, is it talks about investigate and validate. To me, that's what I think what we should be asking for. So if they investigate it and they find that there actually are disparities that are not random or not based on some kind of justified cost, but are somehow discriminatory, then I think that's certainly a valid thing we should correct. So I can support it.
Thank you. Yeah, and
with those provisos.
Yeah, I think to Mayor Pro Tem's point, she did mention the competitive landscape, and we were in a situation where we didn't have broadband, and if a resident wanted it, they were going to have to bring it in themselves. And we had staff get really busy. Thank you to our IT manager for putting together a huge presentation, and I think it got the attention of Frontier. And they said, okay, you're looking for a public-private partnership, we'll just come in and we'll, as a utility, we'll go ahead and put fiber in your city. Competition does have a lot to speak about pricing as well, as you know. And I don't know if that's the reason, because of segmented monopolization of the utility. Could be possible, improbable. If you have a captive audience and they need it, they're going to pay for it. If you've driven up and down the 395, you know how much gas costs, right? So, yeah, it's same thing with I think potentially what we're seeing here, and I think to your point, investigating and validating the findings of this is important. And we know with phone, everybody is entitled to have phone lines. So we're moving into an age of higher speed necessity, and not just for the wealthier communities. And kind of going back to the point of Mayor Bass of LA and some of the, and Supervisor Barger herself, maybe we don't have as many issues regarding this here in our city, but when we see our regional partners having issues, when we can band together with them and have a coalition and have a voice for equitable issues, I think it's important. So I don't think want to do live edits here. Do we want to, yeah, thank you. do we want to
one-time thing.
perhaps throw some suggestions to staff on our own, and then see if staff can come back with a more personalized letter that we can send out? Is that your?
I mean, procedurally, I mean, if we offered potential revisions in the line of the things we're talking about right now and then approve, do we have to bring the letter back?
The city council can either have this letter be reviewed again if you want to see the final version, or you can direct staff to draft a letter according to the direction you provided and authorize them to send that out up to the city council.
But we would have to provide that direction, obviously, here in the public space. Are we ready to provide that direction?
We're going to have to all sign it anyway, right? So we'll all see it before it goes out.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, I think we've provided pretty good direction. I heard two things. I heard one that was things that would make it more personal and relate what the importance is to Sierra Madre. That was kind of the general comment I heard from Councilmember Krebs. And then from Councilmember Lowe was to maybe tie in some of what we heard tonight from the school district. I mean, that seems to me pretty concrete direction.
And then I think the third would be what the mayor brought up about, and to the extent that it furthers the interests of our regional partners, we're also.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's like, it's important to us, and maybe if you discount that because you're saying to yourself, give me a break, Sierra Madre does not have this problem, then at least we're also saying, but also, we're supportive of our, our neighbors and our regional partners, and I think it's important for them to have, equitable access.
Yeah, if we could bring the whole tide up, right, up for our region, so I think it's super important.
I mean, we're gonna be sending them our bears with our trash cans, we should at least help them get better internet access, right?
That's right. Is that enough direction?
Yes.
Right, so, yeah, looks like we're at the end of our agenda. Do we have any recommendations for future agenda items?
I wanted to follow up with what I discussed with Board Member Fredericks. I would like a generalized discussion about recreational opportunities for the youth in our city. And as part of that discussion, I'd like to talk about a potential opening of the middle school gymnasium. But I don't want to really limit it to that. I'd like to have it, because it is a need that's gone unaddressed, and I think it's something we should talk about.
And as far as the discussion, I want to make sure I understand, and staff, are we talking about fiscal impacts and those things as well?
Yeah, fiscal impacts, logistics, and not just, middle school gym's available. What else is available? What other kinds of things can we do? And maybe community services is dealing with this. Maybe someone else is working on this that we're not aware of, or I'm not aware of, but how can we improve recreational opportunities for our youth?
All right, thank you, Councilmember Goss. Any other recommendations for future agenda items?
I had a couple.
All right.
So when I understand it, the Natural Resources Commission is looking at a potential electrification code. I've heard that there's some talk about that. I don't know if that's true or not. It would be nice to bring that forward and agendize that and learn a little bit more about kind of where their thoughts are and where that's headed. I see.
You mean electrification in general, or you mean the leaf blower? Because that was the discussion they had their last meeting, was about consideration of an ordinance similar to Pasadena and South Pasadena, prohibiting gas-powered leaf blowers in the context of the environmental impacts. Not, I don't want to open the noise issue again, but
right. Yeah, but I had also heard that they were talking about like a REACH code is what they and that there were some concerns about going forward with a REACH code because of the lawsuit of the California Restaurant Association versus Berkeley. So I heard there was some discussion. I don't know if Annalise Carlson can expand it. Maybe I'm not hearing the conversations correctly.
Yeah, we've had some initial discussions, kind of the theory of what a REACH code really is, and then we also had a presentation from Southern California Edison regarding the topic as well. It has been kind of shelved while some of the litigation is occurring. Kind of watch and see how that goes before we move too fast.
I think it would be nice if we could have at least a discussion item on it to educate a little bit on kind of where it is. I've had some conversations with the CEO of Clean Power Alliance, and they think there's some pathways through even with the litigation. So I think there's some interesting opportunities and some support from them to think through how to do that.
So I want to make sure the direction's clear. Are you asking specifically about REACH code or things of that nature, or what the Natural Resources Commission is up to, and then have them give us a report on their...
So I'd like to give that's a great clarification. I'd like to give the Natural Resources a chance to talk about it first, and then I'd love to get a briefed on it and kind of hear what they're thinking and what the other opportunities are with the Clean Power Alliance. Even though I'm on the board, I don't know all the details of where that is.
Okay, great. Good?
So just to clarify, we're going to have the Natural Resources Commission look into REACH code and electrification, and then provide an overview of their, or some recommendations to council?
Yes. And it doesn't have to be, there's no urgency on it. If they need a meeting or two to talk about it, I think that's fine, but I'd love to be able to agendize it at some point, maybe by February, let's just say. I don't know if that makes sense.
Do you think the Clean Power Alliance would be willing to present at a Natural Resource Commission meeting to talk about some of the pathways that they're, I mean,
I
'cause I
think,
don't think the commission itself would be, you know, resourced to, you know, consider that overlay.
absolutely, I think that they should, and I can reach out to the Clean Power Alliance and ask them to provide some resources, because they've got the resources, they've actually got that, so that's a good part to add to it. And I think that the second thing is this program that was presented to me by Supervisor Horwath on this lead up to the FIFA 2026 and the Pope's program. I don't fully understand it, so I can't explain it really well, but I think it would be good to get an informational presentation on it and see. We're such a big sports city here. I know we're not huge in football, but or soccer, but I think it's an interesting program, and we have partnered with Supervisor Horwath has done a great job in some of the other things that I've worked with her on. I'd love to be able to see if there's something that may be of interest to our city and our residents.
So, a presentation or?
A presentation, an informational presentation on this opportunity.
Okay.
I assume her office would have information, right?
I've got the right person that I can connect staff with. So she'd sent me to the right person. I've looked at their materials. I think we need to have a presentation to really understand it. As you can tell, I don't fully understand what they're asking for. It is a visionary thing that they've got, and so I think we need to hear from them on what it is. The supervisor's trying to get all 88 cities engaged in it, and I think, as we see things coming up with, we see this for FIFA. I imagine we might see something for 2028 coming up, and so I think starting to see kind of where that's headed might be in our best interest.
Do we know if she's working with our supervisor on this? Is this something our supervisor's?
I can circle back on that, make sure.
We can look into that.
Okay, yeah, I do not know, and she did not copy Supervisor Barker on it, so.
Okay.
Yep, that's all I have.
That's all? All right. Any other?
One other item, and I know I'm going to stir up a hornet's nest here, but we did hear some pretty compelling statements during public comment about recent bear incidents. I personally have had people acquaint me with recent bear incidents just in my travels around town, literally. I see it on Facebook. It seems to be reaching a point where I don't know, is it appropriate to hold another meeting where we can have another council discussion about what to do? Or is there something in the works now, aside from the educational thing that's going on in the library, which I don't think is going to help these people with the bears in their backyards? I kind of feel like we ought to have another conversation about it.
And I want to avoid any off-agenda discussion,
Right.
but Councilmember Parker is going to the COG meeting as the alternate, and it's my understanding you may bring that up at the end, and I don't know, there was supposed to be some traction with the COG, so I don't know if we should.
Well, and then at the last meeting, I did ask for an informational on it, and I know staff is working on it. I think to echo what Councilmember Gossa says, I think we need to take it a step up. What I'd asked for was Fish and Wildlife, the Fish and Wildlife law enforcement, our law enforcement, and Anlis Carlson to talk about it and give us a presentation. But I think we need to figure out something that
That's
framing
fine.
around it. The framing around it should be some action.
I just
related
want
to
the
it.
public to see that we're taking this seriously.
Yes.
And
I'm getting the view that a lot don't.
And try to come up with some solutions.
There's some urgency.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that part of that discussion should be, similar to what we're talking about the library, a communication plan, because, we have done
Right.
a lot, and I think probably more so than any other, city in the foothill area that's probably experiencing similar problems. And part of the problem, as perennial problem, is getting that information out. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's never going to be perfect, but I think we should brainstorm about ways to communicate the steps that we have taken, the steps that we are taking, the discussion that we have, whatever comes out of that, because I do think some of it's getting lost. And I think there's also a bit of misunderstanding about, and I don't want to get too far into discussion either, a bit of misunderstanding about the purview that the city has over this problem. Like, the city cannot make decisions specific to any, particular bear, and that, I think that is not well known, within the purview of the state agencies. But don't we have Fish and Wildlife on the agenda to come to City Council?
We do have Fish and Wildlife scheduled for October 10th with a biologist, and we're working on getting a leg of their law enforcement and our police, our management analyst Carlson. We're also putting together a news article that we hope to be able to publish this weekend. That'll be in our paper.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, because we've been doing a lot of talking, and while we continue talking, we see increases. And we do want to wait until somebody gets injured to get the state's attention. So I appreciate that, Councilmember Goss. Anything else? All right. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned to our next regular meeting. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.